Stavanger, Norway, April 5, 2004. The sun was rising slowly over the harbor, painting the North Sea in soft gold. It was a Monday morning, quiet, crisp, and utterly ordinary. Fishing boats rocked gently in the port. Trams hissed through the cobblestone streets. Cafes were just opening their doors, releasing the scent of fresh bread into the cold air. This was a city built on stability. A place where violent crime was almost unheard of, where even bank security felt like a formality rather than a necessity. For decades, Stavanger had been a prosperous oil capital. A town where people left doors unlocked and trusted that the police were never far away. But that morning, as workers clocked in at the NOKAS Cash Depot, Norway's main cash distribution hub, something else was in motion. A crew of 11 men, heavily armed, highly organized, and terrifyingly calm, were preparing to strike in broad daylight. Their target, $8.3 million USD in cash stored inside one of Norway's most secure buildings. Their plan, military precision. Their message, Norway was no longer untouchable. By the end of the day, one police officer would be dead, the city would be on lockdown, and the entire nation would be forced to rethink what security really meant. This is the story of the NOKAS Cash Depot Heist, Norway's biggest, boldest, and most violent robbery. Every heist begins with an idea. And this one started inside the mind of David Toska. Toska wasn't your typical stick-up man. He was intelligent, calculating, and obsessed with logistics. In the Norwegian criminal underworld, he was known as the Brain. He'd grown up in Bergen, a quiet city where he'd developed a taste for strategy and control. Unlike impulsive criminals, Toska studied blueprints like a chess player studies openings. By the early 2000s, Toska had gathered around him a tight, disciplined crew. Not just thugs, specialists. Men with backgrounds in armed robberies, tactical driving, surveillance, and firearms. Many of them had been part of smaller hits, but this would be something unprecedented. Among them were meticulously, a charismatic operator with sharp instincts. Erling Havna, a former kickboxing champion who brought brute force and a calm under pressure. Kjell Schumann, a skilled marksman who would become infamous after this day. And several others, each assigned specific roles in the operation, from perimeter security to radio interception to breaching. Their base of operations wasn't flashy. They met quietly in apartments, garages, and warehouses scattered around Stavanger. No grand speeches. No ego contests. Just men with a shared purpose and a ruthless plan. This was not about chaos. This was about control. Toska envisioned the heist as a choreographed assault, short, devastating, and executed with military precision. And for that, he needed time, weapons, and a flawless plan. The NOKAS Cash Depot wasn't just any target. It was Norway's main cash storage and distribution hub, where money from across the country was counted, packed, and prepared for banks and ATMs. Toska and his men spent months conducting reconnaissance. They mapped out guard rotations, studied delivery schedules, and even observed how long it took police to respond to different alarms. They noted that early Monday mornings were particularly vulnerable. Most of the weekend cash had arrived. But transfers hadn't yet begun. The depot was flush with money, but staffing was minimal. They built mock-ups of the depot's layout in secret warehouses and rehearsed their movements over and over. Who would breach the door? Who would provide cover? Who would watch the police frequency? Every angle was calculated. One of their most important discoveries was the glass security door at the depot's entrance. It was bullet-resistant, but not bulletproof. With the right firepower, it could be shattered, giving them critical entry time. This became a cornerstone of their plan. Toska's goal was clear. Hit fast. Secure the cash. Escape before police could contain them. But unlike cinematic heists, this wasn't silent or elegant. Toska's plan called for overwhelming firepower, to intimidate, delay, and control the response. For Norway, where even armed robberies were rare, this level of violence would be unprecedented. In the months leading up to April 5th, the crew quietly assembled a small arsenal. Automatic rifles. shotguns, handguns, explosives, bulletproof vests, police scanners, all smuggled or stolen, piece by piece, to avoid detection. Among the most infamous weapons was a military-grade AG-3 rifle, standard issue for the Norwegian army. It was powerful enough to punch through police vehicles and walls, and it would later play a deadly role. Their vehicles were carefully chosen too. They used modified vans with reinforced fronts to ram barricades and block roads, and getaway cars staged at multiple exit points throughout Stavanger. The logistics were so detailed that each crew member had assigned escape routes and burn locations to destroy evidence. They even cut radio communications cables around the area days before the heist, ensuring that when chaos broke out, it would be amplified by disrupted police coordination. Everything was built on one principle: shock and overwhelm. They didn't want a fight. They wanted the city frozen in disbelief. April 5, 2004. The crew gathered before dawn in a rented warehouse outside Stavanger. It was eerily quiet. No one joked. No one hesitated. They loaded their weapons, checked their gear, and went over the plan one last time. At around 7:30 a.m., they set their convoy in motion. Multiple vehicles drove into the city center, coordinated like a tactical unit. Surveillance posts were positioned near police headquarters and key intersections to monitor any sudden movement. By 8 a.m., Stavanger was bustling with commuters, unaware that an 11-man armed unit was moving into position. One van parked near the depot entrance. Another blocked a side street. Getaway cars idled a few blocks away, engines running. Lookouts fed information over encrypted radios. Inside the depot, employees began their routine, counting, sorting, preparing cash. Outside, the attackers donned balaclavas, helmets, and bulletproof vests. Their rifles were loaded. Their faces were set. At 8:01 a.m., the first move was made. A masked gunman stepped forward and fired a burst of automatic rifle fire at the glass door. It shattered under the impact, sending shards flying. The heist had begun. Stavanger would never be the same again. The NOKAS Cash Depot was built to withstand robbery attempts, but no one had imagined this. At 8:01 a.m., as the glass entrance door exploded from the AG-3 rifle's burst, a well-armed strike team surged forward with terrifying precision. Inside, the first security guard froze for a split second, just long enough for two gunmen to breach the lobby and secure the area. Others fanned out to cover the perimeter, blocking potential police entry points. This wasn't random shooting. Every burst was controlled, targeted, designed to freeze the environment. Simultaneously, a separate unit parked a van across the main police access route, ramming it into place and setting smoke grenades to obscure vision. Within minutes, the Stavanger city center, usually calm, descended into an urban war zone. Police patrols responded almost immediately, but they were met with automatic fire. Rounds cracked across the square. Bullets struck vehicles and walls. The responding officers were outgunned and unprepared. Norway had not seen anything like this in modern times. One officer, Arnsigv Klungland, driving alone toward the depot, attempted to block the escape route. He was hit by a rifle round through his windshield and fatally wounded. His death shocked the entire nation. This was no longer just a robbery. It was a national trauma unfolding live. Inside the depot, robbers moved with ruthless efficiency. They smashed into secure cash areas, shoveling money into duffel bags. In less than 10 minutes, they gathered approximately $8.3 million USD, mostly in high-denomination bills. Meanwhile, lookouts reported police movement. Toska's voice came over the radio. Tidder Uda. Nadrar 6. Time's up. We're leaving. The attackers began their staged retreat, laying down suppressive fire as they exited, ensuring police couldn't follow too closely. The gang's escape plan was nearly as detailed as the heist itself. They split into multiple vehicles, abandoning some and switching to others along pre-planned routes. One car went east toward rural roads, another north toward E39 highway. The attackers had even planted obstacles along escape routes to slow down pursuing police units. For hours, Stavanger and surrounding municipalities were locked down. Helicopters circled. Roadblocks appeared across the country. Police poured every resource into catching the robbers before they disappeared into the wilderness. The robbers abandoned vehicles, set them on fire, and changed clothes mid-getaway, blending into ordinary traffic. They dumped weapons in fjords, destroyed radios, and scattered across safe houses. Despite the scale of the operation, for a short time, they vanished completely. It was as if the most violent robbery in Norway's history had been carried out by ghosts. But Toska had underestimated the forensic pressure. The Norwegian police and Kripos, the National Crime Investigation Service, launched the largest manhunt in the country's modern history. Every piece of evidence, shell casings, getaway cars, clothing fibers, was examined. Phone records, surveillance tapes, witness testimonies, all were cross-analyzed in real time. And slowly, cracks began to appear. Over the next 18 months, investigators peeled back the layers of the NOKAS heist with relentless focus. They traced abandoned getaway cars to rental agencies. Surveillance tapes captured blurry figures. One fingerprint in a burned car matched meticulously. A discarded bulletproof vest carried DNA traces. By late 2004 and 2005, arrests began to roll in. David Toska, the mastermind, was captured in Spain after a European manhunt. Schumann, the marksman, was arrested after ballistics linked him to the fatal shot. Nearly all core members of the crew were eventually caught, not through confessions, but through meticulous forensic work. The trial became a national spectacle. Courtrooms were packed. Media outlets covered every detail. It wasn't just about punishing the robbers, it was about coming to terms with the brutality of what had happened. Toska maintained a cool, detached demeanor. He admitted involvement but denied pulling the trigger on the officer. Schumann eventually confessed to firing the fatal shot but claimed he never intended to kill. In 2007, the verdicts came. Toska received 18 years in prison. Schumann received 16 years. Others received sentences ranging from 4 to 16 years. But the stolen $8.3 million? Most of it was never recovered. The NOKAS heist left deep scars, not just because of the money, but because Norway's sense of security was shattered. In a country where police rarely carried guns, the brutality of this robbery forced the nation to rethink its approach to armed crime forever. Stavanger today is once again peaceful. The harbor glistens at sunrise. Cafes open their doors. Children walk to school without fear. On the surface, life looks the same. But beneath that calm lies memory. The NOKAS Cash Depot heist was more than a crime, it was a moment when innocence collided with precision violence. For Norway, it was a wake-up call. A moment when a country that prided itself on trust learned how fragile that trust could be under fire. The robbers may have been caught. Sentences were served. But the questions remain. How could this happen in broad daylight? How did 11 men paralyze an entire city? And how, even today, does millions of dollars remain missing? The NOKAS heist is remembered not only for its scale, but for its cold efficiency and devastating human cost, a reminder that even the safest cities can become battlegrounds in a matter of minutes.